Live. Sorry, it's just. Oh, okay, we're live. Hi, Ben. Welcome to Venture
Hi,
with
Grace.
Grace.
Hi.
Uh, so give you a quick shout out to our mutual friend Michael at Quill Meetings. You guys should totally check it out. I love the Quill Meeting app to translate all your meetings into actionable notes. And I want to give a quick shout out to our course. So, please, I will link the Maven pre-sign up in the comment below. So basically, like a lot of people would DM me about how to raise funding for your startups or like how to break into VC. I got these questions a lot, and I will be addressing it in a live courses where you can also meet other members in the community that are having the same question with you. And then, we can all practice the fund pitching together during the course. And I'll link the pre sign up in the not prenup, but like I'll link the sign up in the comments below. Okay, so hi Ben, welcome again. So let's start with your journey. I know that you built like a really popular website called like the Cheezburger Network, and why don't we start from there, like what it is, and then now
Yeah.
like what were some core lessons that you took to fund Orange Fund / Orange DAO?
Yeah. So my entrepreneur journey started back in the Web 1.0 days, and I had my ups and downs, but my first like real success and break came when I started running this website called I Can Ask Cheezburger. I bought it from the previous the people who founded it, and then I turned it into a media network by actually
Mhm.
turning it into a series of websites. The
Mm.
other website that we're famous for was called Know Your Meme and Fail Blog.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I remember. I feel like when I was in college, I was like reading like Cheezburger or something. But yeah,
yeah, we got that a lot. Like during finals or during exam week, we would get a ton of emails
yeah.
from people like, "You're saving my life."
Okay, so let's talk about like maybe like a quick rundown, like what is Orange DAO and
Yeah.
what's yeah.
Yeah, so Orange DAO is a network of and a community of venture-backed founders. Most of us have gone through the YC program, but also we have members who went through A16Z's Crypto Startup School, as well as actually our own portfolio companies at Orange Fund. Orange DAO
Yeah.
runs a accelerator 2 times a year, and we've got applications that are currently due for our next batch that starts in January.
Very cool. So why did you started it? And then like how is it like kind of like related to YC? Because I think at the party where Dal and I met, like I feel like everybody was like saying it is kind of like a YC crypto startup community, and then it was like YC
Yeah,
alumni backing other YC alumni in the crypto community. And since like it was a DAO, so like assuming like it's people kind of like voting on like which company got
yes,
funding, or like I saw on your website, it's like people getting the same amount of funding through the accelerator. So like, can you maybe give us like a little bit more context
yeah,
on like,
yeah.
how it is run? Yeah.
Great questions. So most of us came through YC, so there's a lot
Mhm,
of YC influence there, and YC is an amazing community and a great accelerator program. And
mhm,
so I worked there when Sam Altman was president, and then I went through the program as well for my
mhm.
like hard tech startup. Um,
Wait,
we
what
write
happened to the hard
100,000 checks.
tech startup?
What's that?
Wait, no, never mind. Yeah,
Okay,
I think
we can get back to that part, the
okay,
hard tech
yeah,
stuff. Yeah. So we write $100,000 checks. It's
mhm,
a programmatic investment, just like most other accelerators. So much of what we learned was through the YC program, and we wanted to actually
mhm,
create a specific one for Web3 and
mhm,
crypto. Right. So if you're building on the blockchain, I think there's a little bit of different like economics and kind of marketing and go to market involved. And so we wanted to create a specialized program for that. And so we've actually invested in more than 200 companies to date. There's like
mhm,
15 companies or so in every batch. Um, yeah. And so the program focuses on the filtering process. We get
mhm,
thousands of applications every year. And so our community actually helps us filter.
mhm.
There is a interview process over Zoom, just like, like a 10-minute intense interview process that we also, went through at a YC.
Not
And
bad. Like 10 minutes
yeah,
for 100K.
10 minutes. That's
Can
it.
I apply?
Yes, you should apply. You should definitely apply.
Not YC affiliate, but I need to like recruit like a former YC founder or something to like
Yeah, so
apply.
I mean, so our network is not, YC anymore
Mhm.
because we've
Yeah.
expanded out and we have our own community, and it's very active. And if you're building in Web3, that's where we want to actually be helpful on. And so we have
Mhm,
people who are, you know, experienced, raised venture backing, and we're, there's nothing that is really more helpful than a founder community when you're building.
mhm. Totally. How is this different than the Pioneer Fund? Is this the Pioneer Fund that's like the
Pioneer Fund, I think,
one of the first?
exclusively invests in YC companies, and so
Okay.
they don't run their own accelerator program.
Mhm.
They invest into companies that are graduating from YC.
Got it. Wait, so okay, so 100K from the 10 minutes interview. What's gonna happen in the 10 minutes interview? How should I structure my pitch into something very
Yeah, no. So
effective?
this is like, people get this wrong all the time, and there's tons of advice out there on how to do like YC style 10-minute interviews. The thing
Mhm,
that we focus on at Orange DAO is that we want to know a very clear way of describing what your company is.
mhm,
Right. So there's this a way of pitching in the Valley. You have a one-liner, and then you have a blurb, and that you can send
mhm.
out to people, and you have a 10-page deck,
Yeah.
and it's like very standardized. And the reasoning is that there are thousands and thousands of companies that are applying for
Mhm,
funding, every month around the Valley, and
mhm,
we've kind of come to know, how do you know if a founder can communicate? How can they
mhm,
sell? How are they thinking about their product? And so the 10-minute interview kind of is a longer form version of that. So we ask you, what's your go-to-market, right? Go-to-market
mhm,
meaning, how are you going to get your initial customers? What traction do you have so far? What have you tested? Like, what have you
mhm,
learned? And then the other thing is like unique insights. Like, if you talk to your customers and you understand the market, then you've got to know something that's unique about this market. So let's have you tell us what that uniqueness is. And that can't be like what everybody else knows. We're looking for like something that you know from
mhm.
really testing out your idea or your product.
I wanna ask you about this. So, like, basically yesterday I was at, like, the raise, like, thing, and then, like so people were saying, like, go-to-market is obviously really important, but I feel like I've been so, like, from my angel investment track record, I feel like I've been backing, like, the strong technical mode founders. So, like, I feel like
Yeah.
living in Silicon Valley, like, there's a lot of, like, the Stanford, Berkeley PhDs here, like, everyone's doing something super unique. But the problem is, like, I feel like, maybe their lack of, like, real life customer interaction experience, like,
Yes.
versus a lot of, like, the second-time founders who are coming from the industry and knows, like, 1,000 customers, like, chatting with them every day, coming from, like, a sales background. So, like, I wonder what's your suggestion for, like, these type of founders, and they may not really have, like, a lot of understanding from the customer side, but they have like a killer like tech.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So there's a saying that
Mhm,
first time founders build product, second time
mhm,
founders build distribution first. Right. And
mhm,
so that gives you an idea as to like what happens after you've experienced the market.
mhm,
And the idea is that you have to start with the customers in mind,
mhm,
because the end goal of every company is to actually sell to customers or serve your customers. And so
mhm,
when you know that, and when you've experienced that by doing years of running a company, you're like, okay, what do my customers need? What do a
mhm,
segment of customers need? Because that tells you, you can work backwards and say, okay, if these are my customers, then I've got to figure out how to distribute. How do I get to them? Right? Is
mhm,
there enough customers to begin with? And then you can figure out what am I building for them. And so that feels very backwards, right? Like product first,
mhm,
then distribution, then customers. That's how you think about it going forward. But if you're designing the company with a success in mind, then you've got to work backwards from your customer. And
mhm,
so that's the fundamental difference that we see between experienced founder and not experienced founders. If you don't have access to customers, I suggest you figure out how to get them.
mhm,
Today, because so many of us are remote and working over Zoom or via the internet, um, creating a way to talk to your customers to understand what their life is
mhm,
like and what they're trying to get solved,
mhm,
like that's a really really strong skill set for a founder, especially for a
mhm.
CEO.
I wonder, so like maybe we could start from like I know this is like maybe so random in terms of like the order, but like I want to learn more about like when you were starting Cheezburger, like how do you find your customer? Obviously,
Yeah,
this was like a while ago, but like Cheezburger was like I feel like it was pretty successful. It was like college humor and then
yeah,
Cheezburger. There was like kind of like the NIGAG like era. Like
yeah.
so it was like a very successful company and then like it obviously went pretty viral and what was it like to create like a viral distribution platform um to like kind of like, having, over 300 million views
Yeah, yeah.
back in time. Like nowadays I feel like everyone's on YouTube. Like so back in time I feel like the whole internet's probably like 300 million
Yeah,
views.
probably
And
the
people are like,
probably the biggest environmental difference between now and back when I was running the Cheezburger Network was, we started out on the open web. So blogs and things that
mhm,
were not owned by a social media company, like the vast
right.
majority of the traffic was actually kind of
Yeah.
like peer to peer, right?
Yeah.
Today it's very different because YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, like there are gatekeepers who actually control how people discover content, right?
Right.
Because we kind of like aggregated into like one of these verticals. Um, the strategy there was we understand how individual pieces of
Mhm,
content performed on the open internet. So we know
mhm.
like voting data, we know the traffic views, we know like we have all these metrics around like how
Wait,
a
how do
post
you know that? Is that just like open or like back in
is Google.
time there was no like
Yeah,
compliance stuff
yeah, it's
or
Google Analytics for the most part.
okay.
So just web-based analytics or app-based analytics was
Mhm.
what was important, and then also like on-page data. So like you could actually provide voting information. You could actually submit content. You could so these interactions that we would create the same
Mhm.
way you pull up TikTok and you know that
Mhm.
a bunch of people voted. Like that data fed into our understanding of what was
Mhm.
popular and what people wanted, right? And
Right,
we would
right.
look at like thousands of submissions every day and would say, okay, what are these submissions that we're not using, and can we create a new
Mhm.
website or new content destination from people who are basically suggesting this piece of entertainment.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so
Wait,
you look at
that's
the customer
crazy.
data. Yeah.
How do you analyze it? Is that like did you like this create like some sort of like internet scraping platform to like scrape these data or like how do people kind of like do it? And then like
Yeah.
what are some things that you feel like could be applied for like the consumer internet products here? Like I feel like Web3 is kind of consumer too.
Yeah. So back then it was basically human editorially driven. So
Mhm.
we had people whose job was to review the content that came in, and there were ways to kind of test and see if these ideas were going to work.
Wait,
And so
how? So like
yeah,
is that just like a reviewing team that they're like from like
mhm.
the second city or something? I know that you're from I don't know if you're from Chicago, but like I know that you went to like
I went
Northwestern.
to Northwestern. Yeah.
Maybe you
So
just
they
recruit
were not
like
like
the
professional comedians, but they were just like
yeah.
people who were good at looking at content on the internet. Like this was like the very early days of people who would troll the internet for content, and
Mhm.
it was just a pattern recognition thing.
Yeah, yeah.
They I think the data really helped, right? Because
Right,
then
right, right,
if you
yeah.
had an idea and you think this piece of content would work, there were certain like uh, blog post time slots, so to speak,
Yeah,
and you would
yeah,
actually go in and you would actually figure out, okay, that did well relative to these other things, and therefore there's an
yeah.
opportunity. Yeah,
Yeah,
and so we'd actually meet about it and be like, okay, is there a new website to be made of this test that we've done?
yeah. Wait, so it was like so you mentioned it was like a series of websites, but like I
Mhm.
remember Cheezburger, I feel like it was just Cheezburger. Like is
Yeah,
there like some like disguised like kind of like other website
yeah,
that I visited or like kind of like associated with it?
yeah. At any given point, we're running actually more than 50 websites.
Oh wow. Like what are the other websites? Like what is how does it work? How do it like kind of like is this like do they all link back to Cheezburger? So Cheezburger have like a better view or like how
Yeah,
does
so
it
think
work?
of it as like a bunch of nodes, right,
Yeah,
around the
yeah, yeah.
network, and we would cross promote content, and people would actually go and subscribe to that website, and so we would actually launch new websites like every 2 weeks.
Yo, this gave me an idea. Like if you want to grow on Twitter, maybe you just create 50 different accounts to like your stuff.
I
That's
mean,
crazy.
that is
I'm sorry.
creating a different website for a different type of content is a very tried and true tactic in media,
Wait,
right?
what?
So
Sorry. I'm
yeah,
like, as a media founder, I feel like so ashamed that I don't know this, but please educate us.
well, so think about it. If you look at a magazine,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
you can see that they own a bunch of other magazines.
yeah. Yeah.
Right? So they're
Yeah,
either, like,
true.
concentrated in the
Like,
food
yeah,
vertical, so to speak, right?
the
And then
Food
so the website
Network.
data is the same.
Yeah.
If you are, on YouTube right now and you have a travel blog and you've got a travel
Mhm.
food blog, and then you've got, like, how to get discounts on travel, like, different vlogs exist for serving different, audiences. And so you can kinda, like
Right.
because you're already producing this content, can you actually
Yeah.
chop it up and create more verticals?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, wow, that's crazy. Like, so how many people do you have to like hire to like do that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think we at our peak, I think had about 150 employees.
150 employees? So, like, is that, like, just, like, let's say me and, like, 2 other guys, like, let's go after the Food Network, and then, like, we scrape,
That's
like, the
literally
food
how we did
price,
it.
or
Yeah,
really?
they're like, okay, we have
Wow.
an idea. Let's go up to the Food Network. Like, what can we do about food memes? Like, let's go create a food meme blog.
Like, how do you, like, oh, by the way, I have a friend who's, like, making, like, the, AI generated memes. Like,
Yeah,
how do you think about these kind of, like, random consumer apps?
yeah.
Like, I wouldn't
So
say random, like, I'm sorry, like, if you're listening, friend, like, I mean, I don't wanna, like, like, expose my friend, but, like, I like the idea, but, like, I
you
don't really know how it
just
could,
blew
like,
them
work.
up. No, depending on the AI model that you're using, let's say you're using LLMs.
Yeah.
LLMs are going to give you somewhat statistically generalized like content. In other words,
Mhm, mhm.
it's a very likely piece of content. So the problem with entertainment and humor is that there's room for predictable, but
Yeah.
you have to have a pretty high supply of unpredictable,
Mhm.
right? And this is where it's going to be difficult for LLMs to actually provide that.
Got it.
Neural nets probably have more of a chance at providing something
Mhm.
that's more unique. But again, because the data source is actually what's already out there, it's difficult for them to create something that is actually surprising, innovative.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
The
totally.
sense of humor is a very bespoke to humanity kind of thing.
It's a It's hard. Like, I feel like, so this was, like, the early days, like, maybe, like, the end of college, I started, like, or, like, maybe right after college, I started, like, shit posting on Twitter. Like, I feel like back in time, my Twitter game was a lot stronger than recently, but, like, I feel, yeah, like, I was, like, I didn't really care. I was, like, I think, like, one day the Mindy Project followed me, like, which is, like, a comedian, like,
Yeah.
Mindy Kaling has, like, a writer's room. They only follow 30 people. I was like, "Wow." Like, I was literally taking courses in, like, the Second City or, like, Upper Citizen Brigade. I was like,
Yeah.
that's how old I am. But I love these things, and then, like, I feel like I would literally, like, see, like, the top Twitter status, and then, like, kinda, like, change it to, like, me. So, like, basically change, like, the story. If the story is about, like, I don't know, someone eating a cheeseburger, I would be like, I'm eating the fries or something like
Yeah.
that. So, basically, I would test out these things. I would, like, basically analyze, like, which, let's say if they're getting like 100 likes, but like one of the tweets or something will get like 500 likes, and I'll like reshape that tweet into my tweet. Back then, I was like really religiously doing these things. I wonder, like, so do you guys do the same for like the content? Like, how do you actually create a piece of like viral content?
Yeah. The vast majority of what people think are viral are
Mhm,
not truly viral. They're pushed by a series of platforms,
mhm,
right? Because of some distribution network that they already have. So like editorially driven content, editorially pushed content tends to be like there's a source that people keep. So our editors actually had sources that they would actually like know to look at, or at least like know that they are like much more credible. And if they reposted, that they would probably repost. There's like quid pro quo that happened.
mhm,
Um, and so a lot of like, I wouldn't say it was coordinated, but a lot of viral content is kind of cherry picked, right? And it's
mm.
not organically viral the way people think it is.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
How? So, like, is there someone on Twitter's team just be like, okay, I think this is gonna perform?
No, so something like Reddit. So they're a bunch of like they're not
Okay.
on Reddit's team, but they actually exist as a like a power user on Reddit, and they would
Mhm.
actually like know that it
Handpicked.
came from. Yeah, it's kind of like they know each other and they wanted to like promote each other's content. So this
Right.
piece of content would work, and then now there's like basically brigading across the internet. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Crazy, what? Sorry.
What?
Yeah,
How is the internet really made?
yeah, how
Yeah,
does the internet really make? Because the other day, I also, like, actually, formerly, we had the CTO of Reddit on. I should be asking him these questions on how the algorithm been, like, actually been promoting these things. But
yeah,
I actually also met another founder whose, like, whole, product was, like, commenting on, like, Reddit posts for you. So, basically, boost your Reddit presence so,
yeah.
like, people can organically talk about your product on Reddit. I just thought that was crazy. I'm like, "What?" But
Yeah.
I think that's like something that actually would work because it's like a soft ad. Like you don't even know that's an ad. Like that's just
Yeah.
insane to me.
I mean,
Um,
anytime you can get distribution or views or engagement for your product or something that is related to you, people will figure out how to farm it, right?
that's crazy. Sorry.
It's
Like
it's just like the nature of the system. Anytime you create algorithmically generated rankings, people figure out how the algorithm works by like testing it, and then they create content to actually take advantage of the algorithm. So, like, if you think of TikTok, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
there's groups of people. There's like secret communities on Discord who are trying to figure out, okay, this algorithm worked. Let's go figure out how to get more content. Like, what do we know? Like, there's people are like collectively trying to figure out how do we actually get more views, and these are not like they're making money from it, right? These
Yeah.
are not like altruistic endeavors and like how do we actually generate better content. It's
Mhm.
how do we get more views on TikTok.
Wow. Do you have any advice if any founder that's listening trying to go viral on their consumer product or consumer tech product?
Yeah, I would say stop. Like, don't try to go viral. Like,
Oh my
it is
god.
not from a outsider's perspective. If you're building a company, let's say for a SaaS product or consumer product, it is not a scalable, repeatable process.
Mhm,
Right. And so when you're a founder and you want to sell to consumers, it is much better to spend your time talking to your customers to figure out, like, how do I make this product better? How do I actually communicate better? Not, can I make this thing go viral? Um, if you need to make something go viral, I suggest that you start with a pretty large budget. Like, and I know it's counterintuitive. You're like, wait,
mhm,
I thought the whole point of viral was like I make one meme and like I'm famous. Um, we've had this happen to a lot of companies where they did manage to make something go viral, or it got started as a viral thing, and they're like, ooh, like it seems interesting. The virality is like a massive peak. It's like COVID. It's just like peaks and then it fades really quickly.
mhm,
And all of a sudden, like all of your metrics and all your data is all wrong because a whole bunch of people who didn't care about your product showed up to your website.
mm,
And now you're like, well, who's my customer? It gets really confusing. So
mm,
if you're building a business, virality is just a accidental outcome, a happy outcome.
mhm.
It should never be the goal.
So how do you explain like back in time there was a company called Dollar Shave Club. Like I feel like
Uh-huh.
it's
Yeah.
been a while ago. It's not that long ago, but it's
DTC. Yeah.
also a while
2015.
ago. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I feel like he created like that ad and then like later on I saw like these 5 other guys like creating like similar product that are like, doing a
I think
similar
Harry's was like
thing.
a follow up to that. And like it was a very similar company, and get razor blades in the mail kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean like a lot of like the no, like I feel like the biggest one was like his like video, right? Like it was like him like basically showing you like the how the razor works or something on like a one maybe like 1 minute or something video, and then the video got really viral. So
Yeah.
like eventually got the business was like, obviously acquired for like $1 billion or something.
Yeah.
But like and then after the video got viral, like everyone else were like trying to go after that style of video. I wonder what's your thought process on like people trying to create some like sort of viral moment or like viral advertising campaign to promote something?
Yeah, so let's go break down truly what they're trying to do, right? They're
Yeah, yeah.
trying to communicate something about their product or some differentiation or
Mhm.
some unique insight that they have, and they're communicating in a way that is culturally relevant
Right.
and easily distributable,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So, um, when we were running Cheezburger, the surefire way to go quote unquote viral was to end up on our homepage.
Mhm.
Right? So if you could figure out how to get end up on our homepage and end up on the front page of Reddit, for example, on the same day, like
Mhm.
guaranteed, you're like, I went viral because so many people reposted what we had, and the
Mhm.
moment one thing and another like big website posted you on their front page, like you got so many views,
Mm.
right? So
Mhm.
you can target for that, but again, it is not a reliable process because it is very likely that once you do that, they're not going to repost it. Like the
Mm.
same source can't appear over and over again because then they
Mm,
kind
mm,
of become boring. So they have to kind of wait a long time before it happens again.
mm,
Um, so when somebody creates a video that people feel like is worth posting to the homepage,
mhm,
right? It
mhm,
means it's different. It means it's saying something in a way that's different or saying
mhm,
something different that is like culturally hitting a like zeitgeist, right? This moment in time, it is the right thing to say. And every 4 years, at least in the United States, election-related content goes viral all the time, right? It's very predictable. But what will go viral in a massive, noisy election cycle like this? Who knows? So a lot of companies do like election-related content, like this time around, and that's kind of like hit or miss, very hit or miss.
I wonder, so, like, you mentioned about, like, at the beginning, you mentioned about, like, there's, like, a different type of, like, subsector, people supporting each other, like, call it Food Network, fashion, blah, 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 like, all come together.
Yeah.
How do you monetize that stuff? Or is it just, like, eyeballs? Or, like, I feel like, how do you monetize, like, a media company in general? Eventually, you guys got acquired by another company, like, what's kind of, like, the learning there? Like, how do you really get, like, acquired by, like, another company? Why, like, what's that, like,
Yeah.
asset value
So the
for?
challenge of media today is that the average cost of producing a piece of content is about 0,
Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
the AI models, the Midjourneys of the world,
Yeah, like, what's your thought on the AI generated content? Like, the other I read about, like, VC's post, basically, she was saying, like, because of, like, everyone's using AI, like, there's no originality anymore. It's like, oh, like, it's just
I
like every tweet is
I
another
would
tweet
tell you that
content.
even before AI, there was
Yeah,
very
yeah.
little originality.
Yeah, seriously, that's what I thought too. I'm like, don't you know, like, how many people copy each other's blog? Like,
Yeah, it's
well,
when's the last time
15
you, like,
other
read
people
something
copied it.
truly original on the internet, right?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
yeah, original content's really hard because you actually have to have a point of view, right? Originality is
Mhm.
hard because we've been fed the same thing over and again our
Yeah.
entire lives. It's just how the
Mhm.
system works. That's how the media world works, and so it's hard to break out of that box and say something truly like different that you actually believe in.
Mhm.
And without believing in something, you can't actually write content that's really good,
Mm.
right? Without understanding, there is no quality.
Mm.
AI has made things easier to write in a structured and verbose way. In other words,
Mhm.
if you want to write a lot and if you want to follow a specific structure, AI is really
Mhm.
good for that, right? If you want to create something creative, AI will create something that is more random than creative. And the reason humanity can map creativity is that we have a point of view, right?
Mm.
LLMs are not reasoning models. Actually,
Mhm.
ChatGPT is working on reasoning models for this specific reasons, and many people are.
Mhm. Mhm.
They're statistical models for how language works,
Mhm.
right? So, um, if you're using AI to assist in comprehension, I think that's a far, far better use of the tool because the vast majority of the stuff that you will actually get are
Mhm.
formulaic and are
Mhm.
generated probably by AI or something similar to create volume, right, of
Mhm.
content.
Mhm.
If you're generating content, AI is a tool that you can use to like generate ideas or whatever, but it's not the output itself. It should
Mhm.
never ever be the output. It should be the input.
Mhm.
Yeah. At least for now. The models today, I would say.
Um, AI should be the output, but not the input. But like
AI
the
should be the input. You should use AI to filter inputs, but it should not be the output.
Okay, so how does that, like, mean when if I want to leverage AI to create, like, a viral
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah. Okay. So let's say I want to say something like I've got
Yeah.
an opinion, and I
Yeah.
would help use like a GPT model to actually generate some text for me, and I would look at the
Right.
point, the
Mhm.
structure of it. It's like, oh, the language model actually generates pretty good bullet pointed structures to actually
Right.
know there are things that you should cover. And
Yeah.
now you can take those bullet points and be like, okay, I'm going to write in my own style
Yeah.
and figure out how to write. Oh, by the way, I'm going to show something.
Oh, okay. Stand and wide. Oh, element style. Let me
It's this
guys reach
thin.
out.
Okay.
For the audience who, like, don't know, like, wanna, like, just read the title of the book. So, like, if they're
Yeah.
listening in a car or something.
The Elements of Style
Mhm.
is the book. It's a very old book. It's like I think the list price is $5. You can get this like for $1 on eBay.
Okay.
Like Strunk and White are the people, the authors. It's a famous book when the authors' names are bigger. The and between the name is
Yeah.
bigger than the
Yeah.
title of the book itself. right?
Speaking of that, I feel like we're all media nerds. Someone recommend me this
Oh my
thing, so like
god.
this thing just got into my mail. So yeah, it's
I've
cool.
got
So
I've got a stack of books back here that I need to go through. But this tells you, this is like your mother telling you how to write better.
okay.
Like, stop doing this, slap your hand, like don't sit, you know. Um if you develop a way of writing, a style of writing
Mhm,
that
mhm,
is fundamentally different than what everybody else is doing, and
mhm,
it's better in a way that's like either more entertaining or clearer, you've got a competitive advantage.
mm,
The reason great marketing works at as you grow is that you are clear, creative, and direct,
mm. Crit
right? Like the
clear.
DTC example was clear, creative, and direct,
Mhm.
right? We make razors. Here, let me show you how,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And we're gonna show you in a way that you probably haven't seen before. That's a creative way.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
if
yeah.
you can nail those things by creating your own style, like you're gonna be a great communicator. And that's actually we look for that in the way people write or think in our applications at Orange DAO. Like I'm constantly looking for people who actually know how to actually communicate because that is
Mm,
so much of entrepreneurship. Tell me why I need your software. Tell me why I need your crypto product. Tell me why I need that new protocol. Like
mm,
you need to be able to communicate. And language is not an issue, right? Like we're not looking for like writers. We're looking for communicators.
mhm. I So how do you become like a more effective communicator? Obviously, you read that book, but I wonder like I felt like there were a lot of things I want to communicate, and I would like put them down into like a Word document or something, and then like trying to
Yeah.
find my points. Maybe I could use ChatGPT to find
Yeah.
my points. But how would you kind of go about like storytelling in a pitch?
The first mistake that people make is they try to say too much.
Oh, another thing I want to ask you is like what or do you like the when people say I'm a Uber for cat or like Yelp for dog or something?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good starting point. Can't end there,
Okay.
but you've gotta, if you're Yelp for date night, right? What I like is, oh, there's a very specific application. I understand it. The whole point of X for
Mhm,
Y isn't just to compare, it's so that I can actually find the intersection of the Venn diagram, right? Because if you've got a Venn diagram that's like completely overlapped, I'm like, well,
mhm,
I don't understand. But if you've got a very narrow overlap, it's like again, like Yelp for date nights.
mhm,
Like it's very clear to me how that thing would work. Like I already know, oh, it's probably an app. It's got GPS data, and it's going to show you
mhm.
nearby, like easy ways to plan date nights. One button,
Right.
right? Like
Mhm,
boom. Um, if you want to be a good communicator, you've got to use the right tools. Like you've got to figure out how to actually use ChatGPT or even just like a book. These are all
mhm.
just tools, right? And you've got to know when to apply them. We had a company in the last batch of Orange DAO, uh, and they were creating entire like narrative worlds, right?
Wait, what do you
Using
mean? Entire narrative worlds?
Yeah. So imagine that you had like a paragraph of text about a character like that
Mhm.
goes like fishing and finds like treasure in the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like there are a bunch of elements in there that you can actually
Mhm,
extract and say, okay, we've got an environment, we've got a narrative, we've got a character that's a fisherman, and we've got a character that is also a the treasure. That maybe the treasure
mhm,
is a persona and a character, and they used AI models, right, to create all of those elements in rich detail, visualizing it, so that you
mhm,
can actually like basically create a TikTok video of AI generated animation and
mhm,
narrative overlay, like in less than a minute.
mm,
Right? They call it Sakai. Join Sakai is the URL. SEKAI. And when you go there, you're just like, holy crap! The AI is really helping me develop these characters and these environments, and being able to visualize and tell the story in a much faster way. Right? And
mm,
it's great once you have those elements, you can actually make them interact with each other. Maybe the fisherman actually goes somewhere else that is a different environment, but it's the same
mm,
fisherman. Um,
mhm,
tools are getting really, really good, right? Tools are getting really good at like giving you more ideas. Again, the
mhm.
input is really great.
Mm. Um, since you just mentioned about one of your portfolio companies, why don't we go back to talk about like, what are some new trends in the Web3 slash like crypto industry? I feel like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't been closely following it since the AI came around, but what's
Here's the thing that I
yeah,
learned at Cheezburger and everywhere else I go is that
yeah.
when technology is popular, they merge,
Yeah.
right? So the way I think about AI is that it is a better tool at understanding the world or
Mhm,
software technology and interacting with it in a way
mhm,
that's very human friendly,
mhm,
right? Instead of having to write code, I can just tell AI to write code, like do something, and it'll generate the code for me, right? That's the way to think about
mhm,
it. Um, Crypto is how you store and interact with value, right? Like dollars or assets or some gatedness like membership.
mhm,
The way I believe AI will interact with the future is that they're not going to work with a financial like institution, like traditional financial institution, who are very much like from the inside they want to use AI, but they don't want to interact with AI because then it creates like all these issues with fraud and like is this a real person? Like
mm.
what is actually happening? Whereas crypto is a native way for AI to actually move value around and transact with it.
Um, but on the other hand, I mean, I do sometimes I think about like, basically the blockchain kind of like creates some sort of like mutually agreed contract instead
Yeah,
of like, there may be like human error in some way.
yeah.
But I wonder what's your thought process on like the future of these like you mentioned like transferring value, like payments and stuff. I really want someone to bring back the NFT era because I feel like that's the best way to sell a really expensive membership ticket. But I wonder how do you think about like, how does like the payment side of things will work in the future, and then how does, like, AI play into, like, the Web3 slash crypto ecosystem?
Yeah, if you think about payments today,
Yeah.
they're really more like social media today, where it's
Mhm,
controlled by a bunch of, handful of companies, and you kind of have to use their protocol and something that they own everything from the bottom up, right?
mhm,
From like the card to the
mhm,
transaction network to like the clearing house and like
mhm,
how the value is stored. Finance and value on the internet is
mhm,
moving in the more open direction, unlike
mhm,
social media that went from blogs that are open to closed networks,
mm,
right? So you've got the traditional finance system, and then you've got crypto and tokens and things like that that are composable and open to anyone to actually build on top of. So it's interesting to see it go in the other direction, which is like more open and more like anybody can use it. There's no
mhm,
gatekeeping. Um,
mm,
AI is not going to want to be gatekept. AI is
mm,
not going to want to interact with a customer agent at a large bank by using the telephone system. That's a terrible interface, right?
mhm,
Very inefficient. Um, and so I think technology tends to move towards things that are simpler to use, that are faster.
mhm,
And when I look at the blockchain, that's one example of that. The other is actually um, last batch, like I was the partner on this team. There was a company called Zero Gravity, or is
mhm,
they're a layer one blockchain, and they're an
mhm,
AI specific blockchain. In other words,
mhm,
if you want to create AI and you want the AI to be accountable to the public,
mhm.
you need a way to actually put that data or some parts of that AI modeling or training on chain, so that we can look at it and go, "Oh, this data is bad. This data is good, or this
Okay.
model is good."
Like, tracking the movement of these, like, new
Tracking how an AI learns or what it learns and how
oh,
it
okay.
behaves is fundamental to feeling secure about, is that model going to work the way I intended?
Mm.
Right.
Um, what are people building these days in the crypto
My gosh, there's so much stuff going on.
era?
There's so much stuff going on, right? So, like,
Okay,
I
so
talked
show us
about
the
Sakai, which is like AI generated
mhm,
NFT storytelling. Like NFTs are going to come back at some point, and then you've got like an entire blockchain, and then you've got like, um, I have a friend who's actually building a company that is about web browsing, but
mhm,
everybody's on the same live website.
Mhm.
Not like a screen share, but we can all navigate to the same website and you can click on things, I can click on things. I'm like, so we're like, the
Mhm.
way I describe it, it's like you can take a road trip through the internet with your friends and actually
Mhm.
be on the same trip instead of one screen sharing to the other.
Mhm.
Like if you think about screen sharing, like this is a specific format of media. If you think about co-browsing the web together, that's a very different type of media, right? Because there's
Mhm.
interactivity. Yeah. And so you can actually do live stream from that. And I think it's going to make the whole internet like multiplayer.
Mm.
Like that's on crypto, right? Because they're going to
Mhm.
guarantee that people own their experiences. And that's what they're using the blockchain for is, hey, we're not going to be a walled garden. And here's how we show you that you should build on our platform so that we can't yank it away from you.
Mm.
Yeah. So there's like this huge range of companies.
Um, I think in the past, like, there are a lot of people building on the infrastructure layer, and then there is, like, obviously people building on the application layers of things. Um, what are some, like, innovative things that you are seeing on maybe the infrastructure side people are
Yeah.
building?
Yeah. On the infra side, like I'll give you some examples. So there was a EIP pass, Ethereum
Mhm.
improvement proposal, where you can actually move assets from one wallet to the other automatically. And that, like, it's like, why would you want to use that? Like that, that EIP enables things like subscription SaaS payments,
Mm.
right? Because I can have one wallet that's like going to top off the other one, right? If the balance on one is low, like so
Mm.
things that we take for granted in the traditional finance stack, right? It's like top off your balance automatically. Like
Yeah.
we're building that on chain, but in a way that's open to everyone.
What's the difficulties of building it on chain versus, like, the traditional, tech stack?
Yeah. The traditional finance fintech stack assumes that there is a person who is a backstop.
Wait, what do you mean? So, like, a person in the back just approve it?
Yeah, yeah.
Or
I mean, like I paid my contractor who was working on my house,
right.
and he takes checks. So I wrote him a check.
Mhm.
And the check had a little error on it. Like I misspelled his name, or it kind of looked like I misspelled his name. So my writing's pretty
It
bad.
got bounced back.
No, the bank held it. It took
Oh,
like
okay.
2 extra days to clear, and he's like, "Yo, why is that clearing?" And I'm like, "I don't know. It's cleared my account." Like on my side, it's like cleared.
Oh, yeah,
On
yeah,
his side, somebody had stopped it. So the
yeah.
bank literally just like held my money for 2 days in limbo, and I'm like, "Well, that's kind of effed up."
Mm.
It's like if I had sent it via crypto, he would have seen it in 10 seconds, and he's like, "Cool, it's cleared." Right? Um,
Yeah, so it's more transparent, basically.
yeah. And I can show
Um,
him on the transaction record, "Hey, man, it went through," and we know that it went through. Whereas I was like, "Hey, I don't understand." Like, I was asking my wife, I was like, "Hey, did this clear?" And she like sent me a screenshot, like, "The money has left our account.
yeah,
It's not in
yeah,
there
yeah.
anymore. It says cleared." And my contractor was like, um,
Where's
"My
my
bank's
money?
holding it." Yeah, it's just like they were
Okay.
just like holding our money hostage for no reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in the back end, so it's like someone actually have to check every transaction, or how does it kind of, like, work?
Well, the funny part is on the
Mhm.
back end of all this stuff, there's tech, right?
Mm.
So even in TradFi, they're trying to not use humans but pretend that there's a person who can actually fix it, right? So it's
I
like,
don't
well,
understand.
if the check is fraudulent, then I
Yeah,
can
yeah.
call the bank and be like, "Hey, somebody wrote a fake check. Can you get my money back?" And they're like, "Sure, I can get your money back." So the entire fintech verticals are predicated on a man in the middle, a person in the middle who is trying to figure out, was this right?
Mm.
The way we think about it in crypto is that if the transaction was valid and we can validate it using math and technology, then it's valid.
Mm.
That also means that when you design systems, that the bar for creating a better system is much higher because you can't just write code and be like, "Look, I've got a giant security loophole and it ships." We have auditing companies for that reason, like who help with that.
Mm.
They can't solve everything, but we know that if you write a simple contract and you follow these best practices and they check for it, you're good to go. And it's really working well. Like there are billions of dollars of transactions that are going on without a human being involved in the middle. This
Mm.
is all entirely possible. We just need to learn how to do it and we need to get better at it.
Yeah. Wow. I wonder, so, like, going back to Orange DAO, like, so how many companies are in each batch, and
Yeah.
let's say, like, what's a kind of, like, filter, right? And, like,
Yeah.
if a random person apply, like, obviously they go through the 10-minute thing, like, what are the benchmark like, how does the evaluation process look like? Like, do you have, like, let's say 7 partner from Orange DAO or, like, Orange Fund sit there, be like, "Okay, you, like, filter the communication skill, you filter the technical skill," or, like, how do people kinda, like, um
So that's kind of right. So we receive thousands of applications every year.
Right,
We get there's about somewhere between 10 to 20 companies every batch, 2
right.
batches a year.
Mhm,
So acceptance rate is like sub 1%.
mm,
What we try to do is we try to make the funnel as big as possible because we want as many people to come through the door so they can actually apply.
right.
And we have teams of people who are members of the DAO, who are venture-backed
Mhm,
founders, who review
mhm,
these applications and they score them along a certain specific set of criteria that they want to score it on. And
mhm,
so, part of the challenge is there's a bit of randomness to that, right? Depends on who you get as a reviewer. They may not make it to our filtering because the fund then actually does the final decision making on every
mhm,
application. Um, and so, like, how you answer those questions matter a lot. And then we go through an interview process. So I think
mhm,
we interview something like, somewhere around 10% of the applicants. So if you think
mm,
about it, like that's actually pretty good. Like, and we try to provide as much feedback as possible, at least some feedback from each interview. But that's still hundreds of interviews.
mm.
Yeah,
What's the I wonder, like, in terms of, like, for the interview process, like, so if I'm a founder, I came in with my, like, one-liner, 10
yeah,
like, 2 minutes pitch, and then you ask me like, 5 questions.
yeah.
What should I be expecting? Besides, obviously, you mentioned about, like, the go-to-market questions and, like, what's your kind of, like, earn unique insights and,
Mhm.
like, how did you test out your product? And after I answer these things, like, for the people who got filtered in and out, like, how do you check my background? So, obviously, like, if a second time founder, obviously, maybe that's, like, a plus, but how do you
Referrals help a
evaluate the
lot.
team and okay.
So knowing a member, like reaching out to a member of the DAO and asking them to actually like refer you helps a lot
Mhm.
with the quote unquote background check part. But that's actually
Right.
not the first thing we check for, right?
Yeah.
Like we can go do that in reverse. Or like, hey, who
Mhm.
knows this person? Let's go figure out how to actually do a check, like due diligence on
Yeah.
them a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, but the number one thing we look for is like how clear is the answer,
Mhm.
right? So, you said X for Y. If the X for Y is good, we're like, oh, like you'd be surprised as to how hard it is for people to understand the X for Y and describe it in a
Mhm.
way that actually works.
Right, right. What do you think about, like how do you think about the font construction? I assume, like, every person just get the same 100K check, or, like, how do you invest outside of that? Like, do you do follow-ons for, like, the community members, and what does that kinda
Yeah,
like
so
like?
we don't do follow-ons. I
Mhm.
think there's a lot of signaling risk if you're an accelerator and you do selective follow-ons. So,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
decided that we either follow one for everyone or we follow one
Mhm.
for no one. And so our
Mm.
strategy right now is to ensure that we give our companies the best chance possible at raising outside capital outside of our network.
Mhm.
But they
Mhm.
obviously use our network, use our demo day. We have hundreds of investors who show up to our demo days, and we make sure that they are in the best position to raise. And a
Mm.
lot of the program in the final weeks are centered around how do you actually communicate to investors very clearly in a very succinct way the differences that make you better by using proof, using
Mhm.
evidence from customers. That's
Mm.
the simplest way to put the final outcome of demo day is clarity, succinctness, and evidence-based, traction. And
Mhm.
traction in terms of understanding your customers or like actual like numbers.
Mhm.
Before that, it is all about growing the business. What are the
Mhm.
metrics that you are moving up and to the right? Right?
Mm.
And before that is like, what are you focused on? Like, if
Mhm.
you're trying to boil the ocean, you're not gonna get anywhere. So what part of this strategy are you executing on now? Because you don't need to execute the entire strategy right now. In fact, strategy should
Mhm.
be kind of nuanced. So the part of the program is anytime you go through like a very high intensity deadline based program like this, it makes a lot of founders better because they've got to deliver in 12 weeks, something that they've never delivered before. And like people
Mhm.
rise to the challenge. And that's amazing to watch in person.
Mhm. I wonder, so like, so like, some of the funds, like, for example, like, let's say call it like Hustle Fund or something, they would track the person for a little bit before they put money in. Or I don't know if they track like during after they put money in, but like I feel like a lot of people would track like before they put money in. Do you have to how long do you have to make the decision? Or like is it just on the spot? Let's say I came in with my 10 minutes pitch and then you're like, okay, you're in. Or
Yeah.
how does that kind of work?
It varies. It varies quite a bit. So, if they came through a referral first and we don't have to check, on the other direction, obviously that takes
Mhm.
less time. But the amount of time has nothing to do with the decision. That's just a process that we run, and we've got to talk to like I've got to talk to Don, my other general partner, about like is this the company
Mhm.
we want to let in? Um, Don and I can just approve a company directly, but we obviously want to check with each other and make sure, hey, like, is this good?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and sometimes like we've got follow-up questions,
Mhm.
and we might do a second meeting, or we might just first meeting, that's it, we offer and we, move on from there. So it varies quite a bit, but we try to make decisions as quickly as possible, just within a
Mhm.
matter of a few days at the most.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How do you, like, think about from, like, a fund perspective, like, what is, like, the fundraising kind of journey look like for you to raise, the Orange DAO/ Orange Fund? And I guess, like, what does the early days kind of look like to put something like this together?
Yeah. So the project started out because Orange Fund raised a tiny little vehicle fund
Mhm.
to invest in crypto companies who were in YC at the time.
Right.
So I think there was like 10 investments, and we deployed the capital like that 1 week after demo day, basically. Like we
Wait,
raised
was that
like
like was it, like, every crypto company you guys just, like, put some money in? Or, like, how do you
yeah. So
also
this was
raise
like we're not
from
charging a fee. Like it was like, hey, let's
like,
just do something good for the community. And so
oh,
we
okay,
raised
like
like
a
a little
syndicate
bit less than $1
program.
million for this micro fund, and we like deployed it in a week
Wow.
because the whole goal was like index of crypto companies in YC that
Mhm.
specific batch.
Right, 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 right. So, like, who was,
Yeah.
like, the backers in this? Is that, like, other crypto founders? Is that just people backing each other? Like, "I'm a
Yeah,
founder,
absolutely.
I
It's
put
just
in
a bunch
some
of
money."
angels, right? Who put money into a
Yeah.
fund, and they're like, "Hey, why don't you guys go do the work, and deploy the capital for us?" And I'm like, "Sure." Like,
Okay.
this is like less a
Wait,
few
was
days worth
it
of work.
more, like, of, like, the successful crypto founders, like, backing, like, the younger founders? Or, like, what was it, like, just, like, me also putting money in and then backing my peers? So, like, the crew were, like, kind of, like,
Yeah, it wasn't
you
the
guys
crew
a little bit.
because these were companies that are, new to YC, and we're a bunch of,
Right.
like, YC alumni. We're like, "Okay, let's
Oh,
pool
okay,
some money together."
alum.
It's just a little pool of money that we're putting together.
Okay.
Um,
Wait,
yeah,
when was this? Was it like 2020 or 2021 or like
21.
21?
21. This
Okay, yeah.
was like
That's the peak. Yeah, that's
yeah.
the back in time I was a crypto influencer. That was like the era of like crypto.
Yeah,
Everyone's
well,
going to
it
NFT
it fe
NYC vibe. Yeah.
like crypto goes through these like huge, boom and bust cycles, right?
Yeah.
So Don was running, who was one of the admins. I think he created the YC crypto like WhatsApp group,
Oh,
and then
wow.
I created the YC NFT group, and we're like, hey,
Okay.
we should
Let's
just
merge.
merge these two together. Yeah,
Okay, wow. That's
yeah. So
amazing.
that
Wow.
was
Okay,
it.
yeah. Okay.
And then we're like, okay, maybe we should create a fund, like a real VC fund,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
this was like so popular.
Right.
But how do we create not yet another early stage fund, right? Like, how do we create something that's actually different and has an advantage? And so the idea was, let's create a DAO. Let's have the community drive a lot of the like effects of being a VC first, right? So like if
Wait.
you run VC for
Mhm,
10, 20 years, you have a network of portfolio companies that you can rely on. This is the reverse of that. Let's start with a network, right? And then see if they can actually generate better outcomes, like with
mhm.
us, right? So
I
if yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I wonder, like, is this just for investing? Or, like, you mentioned about the network, right? Like, Alliance? So
Yeah,
that the founder of Alliance went on our show before, like, and, like, he was talking about, like, I think back in time when I was looking at his, like, um, LP base, it was, like, crazy. It was, like, a lot of, like, literally the tier 1 entrepreneurs.
right.
And then they were offering a bunch of, I think it was kind of like a accelerator model, so kind of like a YC for crypto too. So it's like you offer like the mentorship or like,
Yeah.
the Solana founder would come and like give a talk or something. Like, what was it like to build Orange DAO at the beginning? Do you guys also offer like the courses or like some other
We
stuff?
we were actually we didn't have an accelerator at first. At first, it was
Right.
like a community, and we're like, okay, we as a community, like, what do we want to do? It was just like, can you refer good founders and investments to Orange Fund,
Yeah.
right? And it was like a referral network, and then a helpful network once you were like part of the membership. And so, if you became a portfolio company, you became a member of that network, and you can actually like you're inside the circle, right? And then you can
Okay.
get like, I don't know how to describe it. It's just part of the community,
Yeah.
and that was really helpful. And then the accelerator program came actually later.
Mm.
Yeah,
Okay, got it. So what do I got like in the accelerator program if I'm a founder?
yeah. The first thing is like the rigor of the accelerator program is really important. In other words, like having a deadline, knowing that you're going to be pitching in front of hundreds of investors is a
Mhm.
huge motivator to actually like excel. The demo day itself is pretty crazy. Like you are live streaming to investors who you will generate. You have like 90 seconds
Mm,
to pitch. Like, and you're gonna make or you're gonna generate hundreds of thousands of dollars investment. It's not millions of dollars of investment as a result of this 90-second pitch and the things you do right afterwards. So it's a high intensity process. And so we work backwards from that and say, what do you need to communicate? So we have group partners like me, like Dawn, a bunch of other experienced founders. And we have mentors that we can connect you
mhm,
with that have domain expertise, right? Because the group
mhm,
partners that we are like there to make sure the trains run on time for you and like to motivate you and like, hey, you said you're going to do X last week. What did you do? How did you do? Right?
mm.
And we give them
Like a
like very
peer support group. And yeah,
there's a
yeah.
peer there's actually other people in the peer group, but we're
Mhm.
like the coaches, so to speak, and who are
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
making sure that you get stuff done, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's one part.
Mhm,
The other is access to the community itself. We've got great like guest speakers, great like content that we've learned how to actually use to help you understand the market. So like
mm,
there's a huge range of founders. Some are repeat, some have actually built unicorn companies before, some are first timers, like straight out
mhm,
of college. And
mhm,
so we as partners in the program have to know what do we need to show you and teach you versus a different founder,
mm,
right? And so we have different tools at our disposal for that.
mm,
It's very like tailored to your specific need.
mm. Right. What's your thought process on like, generating returns? Like, do you guys like I guess like once XYZ have an exit, like
Yeah.
how do you deploy or I mean not deploy, but like distribute the money back to the member?
Yeah. So we're still in our deployment cycle. So we've
Right.
recycled a bunch of money back into the fund, right?
Okay.
Because we believe that this is a great time to be investing because valuations are kind of flat.
Yeah.
As the economy roars back, it's
Yeah.
not going to stay flat. So,
Mhm.
like, if we're going to deploy, we should deploy now as
Right.
aggressively as possible into the best companies we can find,
Mhm.
because we don't. What you don't want to be is like deploying while
Mhm.
the valuations are rising, because that money is just going to return less, right? In the same
Mhm.
amount of time. So there are very like tactical things that we do as a fund to think about the market and just make adjustments to the market.
Mhm.
And it's pretty humbling because like I think about a year ago we saw like this like return of the peak in crypto
Mhm.
as Bitcoin neared like all-time highs, and I was like,
Mhm.
oh, we're gonna come back like right now, and it turns out I was wrong. I'm
Mm.
like, yeah,
I'm
rule
sure
number
it will
one:
come back in
never
like
make predictions of the future.
a few years, but yeah.
Yeah, like, but Bitcoin prices are near all-time highs, and we're like no one talks about it.
Yeah, 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 for sure. I feel like we're in like a major marketing cycle for AI right now, so like,
Yeah.
it go
And I'm totally
it goes
happy
up
with
and
that
down.
because like a third of our companies are in AI and they're doing like really fundamentally interesting things. Like we've got a company who is in AI and that only uses private data to train models. And so
Mm,
if you think about it, if your AI is trained entirely on public models, public
mhm.
data, you're gonna end up with like very similar results.
Right, right.
And so they've got access to private data.
How, like, I mean, how? Like, it's a I feel
Hey,
like
they
yeah,
pay the people with the private data in using tokens so that they have
using
an
tokens.
incentive. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
This is why I'm like crypto and AI really work well together. Is that there are ways of actually monetizing or incentivizing parts of AI that work way better with crypto versus like real
So
like fiat.
how do they liquidate that stuff? Like, if I'm like a private company, and then why would, like, let's say I'm Goldman Sachs, like, why would I give my data to someone and then wait until like they tokenize the stuff?
Yeah. One, AI is already expensive to actually train, and so this generates a
So they're
fee
getting
for the
free
model.
training, free
Look,
model training.
you gotta pay for the training, right? You got data centers to
Yeah,
run.
yeah,
You've
yeah.
got like Nvidia to pay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, 95% goes to
Nvidia is not
Nvidia.
going to take tokens, at least not
Yeah,
yet.
yeah.
So where else can you use to create more value and be like, hey, these tokens will be worth something someday, but we can't make that promise now. But right now, the tokens you can use to actually govern the system, right? So
Right.
there's like different. It's not just purely financial. There's a lot of control value involved, decision making that you can actually farm out or like use as a currency, saying you are now a voting participant in this network. And
Mm,
so I think people are using that to figure out how do we actually advance the value from the future to today, which is how you create more value.
mm.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're at the I want to mindful of the time. I don't want to occupy too much of your time. Okay, let's end with like a quick 1 minute fire round for you, Ben.
Okay.
Okay, so what's your favorite book?
My favorite book is a book called The
Please
Making of
do
the
not
Atomic Bomb.
wait, do not tell me it's a writing book. Wait,
No,
what
it's
was
not. It's The Making of the Atomic Bomb by Richard Rhodes. It talks about the humanity's discovery of the atom all the way to like post Hiroshima.
oh wow,
Yeah.
deep.
It's such a great lens into humanity and technological advancements and just like literally there it's such an amazing story.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so I'm totally gonna check it out. Who would you invite to your dinner party?
Who would I invite to my party?
Yeah.
Hmm. He's still alive, so time's running out. But probably
Mhm.
let's say Muhammad Ali.
Oh wow. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Who made the biggest impact in your career?
Oh wow. One of my original investors at Cheezburger, his name is Brad Feld. He just retired as an
Raphael?
investor.
Like
Yeah, yeah, VC.
uh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
he's in
Foundry
my
Group.
book. He was like
Oh,
the
how to
OG.
be
He
VC.
was in my
Yeah,
book. Yeah, that's my book. And then like I was like very young, just like before. This is like before Adventure Era. Like I published a book, and then like I interviewed Brad Field for my book. So he was awesome. The Foundry Group, Brad Field.
yeah, yeah. The Foundry Group. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's
Oh, he was so nice.
he's great.
Appreciate him. Shout out to Brad.
He taught me so much about actually how to be an investor. I didn't know it at the time, but just like the way he conducted himself as our investor,
Yeah, yeah. I feel like he's
I think of
just
what would
like
Brad do?
yeah. What would Brad? Okay, so please invite me if like he is at your dinner party. Oh, no, sorry, that's the impact one.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay. Where can we find you outside of work?
Uh, Orange DAO XYZ. On X at Benhuh, BENHUH.
Mhm.
Pretty easy to find on the internet these days. Yeah, the way I engage with the world right now is through the program because I love working with founders.
I
Yeah,
love you use the way to say like engage with the world.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's such a way that's such a beautiful way to put it. Anyway, okay, so Ben, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was such a dream come true for my college self as, a cheeseburger user. But anyway, you're awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Grace.
Let me quickly